Welcome back to Retro Rebound. In today's video, we are going back to a game that doesn't feel like it's aged a day, and that's Dying Light. We have Dying Light the Beast coming out soon, and when I fired up Dying Light on Steam, I realized it had been since 2016 that I had played this game. I remember when it came out, I was absolutely enamored by this game. You see, I was a huge Dead Island fan, and when they left behind Dead Island to chase Dying Light, at first I went, okay, why? We're still killing zombies and crafting weapons, but then you see the parkour, and you also see how long it took to get another Dead Island game out, Riptide excluded, so therefore their move made sense. But Dying Light is a game that functions very much unlike other games in the industry, because it was one of the few single-player games to crack this ground of getting continuous support, DLC, updates, new activities added to the map. Like, they continued to support the hell out of Dying Light 1, all the way up to giving players developer tools to let them build their own content. The Dying Light community is huge, and that would continue on with Dying Light 2, which I thought was pretty good, but also really broken at release. And now Dying Light the Beast is finally coming around. We got Kyle Crane back in the protagonist seat, and so I wanted to reacquaint myself with Mr. Crane. I wanted to go back to the original, especially because so many people do break this one down. It's a timeless game. Does it really feel so according to the law from Retro Rebound? Absolutely. We'll break down why. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're new here and you're into nostalgic or retrospective content, you're in the right place. Consider subscribing. Am I low-key becoming a graphics guy? Maybe in this weird way, but I think it's because it's proving a point that I've been trying to push for a while. I've talked about this extensively, especially in light of the Unreal Engine 5 issues that our industry is facing, that we're kind of going into the granular level of detail that's providing diminishing returns, you know, your hair physics and whatnot. Like, how does the hair look when ray tracing is on versus ray tracing off? It's ridiculous, and it's not stuff you notice. And then when you go back and reconnect with games like I talked about with Phantom Pain or Dying Light, you see how the lighting, the color palette, the draw distance, the detail in the environment, like, do games need to look better in this? I don't think so, but Dying Light looks phenomenal on PC nowadays. I know it looks great on console too, but I was just so blown away by how gracefully this game has aged in the visuals department. There are parts like when you get close to other NPCs and you start talking to them, yeah, it starts to show its age ever so slightly, but I've never been, I mean, look, some of my favorite games growing up were BioWare games. You think facial animations are gonna make or break it for me? No. I mean, there's a level to it, of course, but with a game like this where it's doing so much, gets a little bit of grace in that department, because when you see the detail on the zombies, I mean, there were times I was getting tackled by these psychotic nighttime zombies that just jump in your face. They're covered in blood, they're disgusting, they're creepy looking. They bring the true fear back to zombies, but it's that visual detail, that grossness to it. I mean, some of the best dismemberment in the industry, like the slow motion kills where you can cleave any zombie in any direction. You can take off their arm, their head. It's like, sure, what about cleaving them right down the middle, cleaving them up from their hip all the way across to their left shoulder? There's just such a gross amount of detail in this game without going for hyper realism. It never really had to do that, and I don't think the industry never really should chase that, because this sort of ridiculousness, while still looking really good, is what makes a lot of video games sing, and that's especially the case for Dying Light's visuals. So I know that's not what we really opened up a conversation on Dying Light about, but I just had to immediately comment on how great the game looked and ran nowadays. I was so impressed with that. The way the wind's blowing through the trees and the sparks of fire flickering in front of you as you just see a city burning in the distance. It's jaw-dropping. I love it, man. This game looks so good. Not only that, but when you're moving so fast through this city, its ability to convey where you should go next as you hop from rooftop to rooftop without painting things certain colors. I mean, they use a lot of blue. That's usually like your key color you're looking for here. And I think with how fast the game gets, that sort of stuff is needed. Like, oh, if you see a big pile of blue trash on the ground, that's going to be, you know, the landing spot for you that's safe for you to fall from like 3 stories up and somehow survive. Whatever that may be. I think there's a little bit of that needed, but for how minimal it is, all things considered, I was also really impressed with that. But to me, the defining factor of Dying Light, I mean, such a great name, is when it turns into nighttime. This game makes zombies a real threat. And I feel like zombies, thanks to titles like Left 4 Dead or even shows like The Walking Dead, show them so often just being hacked and slashed and sawed through en masse. And they don't really provide the threat or the fear that they once did. But in this game, you can have that, like you have your common fodder zombie that you'll just cleave through no problem. But then you'll start to find the crushers where if they get their hands on you, they're knocking you like 10 miles back. There's, of course, also screamers that alert the nearby ones. There's the bloaters that when they blow up, it hurts everyone, including yourself, in the nearby vicinity. And of course, there are the ones that chase you down at night and make you run for it and run for it. And they're really strong, and fighting them isn't going to work. And even when you're running away, more and more are going to start tailing you. It leads into these high-speed chases that puts not only the parkour on display, but again, shows that there's reason to fear. Like, there's the high risk, high reward of going out at night. Some missions can only be done at night. Some loot is only available at night. Some challenges are only available at night. So like, your risk is high. The reward is also high, really high. And so I just love that balance there where you actually have to do a little bit of stealth gameplay in a zombie game. Where it doesn't age as well in the gameplay department, I think, would be the gunplay. I feel like Dying Light 2 figured this out a little bit more, although I remember actually liking the guns a little too much in Dying Light 2. I like how Techland has really found this weird balance where melee weapons are much better to use than guns in a zombie game. Like, there was one point I had Rise pistol out and I was like triple headshotting zombies and doing no damage to them. So it's a little weird at times when you don't just pop a zombie's head like a grape after headshotting them. I think a lot of media has trained us to think that way, but it's fine because the melee feels really good. But yeah, the shooting in this game isn't spectacular. Like, clicking the right thumbstick to aim in is a little ancient feeling, but since it's all coming down to melee 95% of the time, again, not the biggest deal in the world. The melee in this game still feels great. Again, the responsiveness is great. The control scheme is great in this game. That's something I really want to compliment because you're always running and looking around and jumping at the same time. And I feel like while we always think A is the jump button, RB, the right bumper, very underrated jump button, I must say, because you're able to look around, jump, make quick reactive moves, and then they evolve things even further when you get the grappling hook. I remember when I reviewed this game back in 2015, I was so blown away by Dying Light's grappling hook because it already felt so good with the jumps off the zombies' heads, the ability to kind of hurdle the environment. I'm like, this is awesome. No problems whatsoever. And then they add the grappling hook. So now I'm like playing a Spider-Man game in a post-apocalyptic setting. It's, again, unbelievable how great this feels. And you can use it offensively. You could also use it to get off really tall buildings that you don't really see any other easy way down. Like, it's just your quick fix. Unfortunately, it's unlocked a decent ways into the story. But once you have all of these tools, moving around in Dying Light feels like a dream. It's amazing to see in their first attempt how great they got it to the point where some of the returns on evolving Dying Light 2 and its parkour system were diminishing a little bit. They had to add a little bit of ridiculousness in there. You had to have like things like gliders or giant bouncy pads that were based on your story choice if you chose that route. I don't think it was the end of the world by any means, but I also haven't gone back to Dying Light 2, nor have I watched a lot of Dying Light 2 content. I just know some people have a lot of issues with the game, so I do want to go back and check it out as well. But Dying Light 1, I think, has aged like a fine wine, especially if you don't care too much about storytelling. This is a pure gameplay experience. But also, remember, back then, we're going from Dead Island to Dying Light, and what I thought was really cool is how many systems carried over from Dead Island, right? Dead Island, to me, is fantastic. I love the first one, but Dead Island showed that, you know, their true evolutions can happen in video games. And for me personally, Dying Light killed Dead Island. Like, it just was really hard to go back to Dead Island with how great they made the combat feel in Dying Light, how polished it was, how the free running felt, how open the environments were, the fact that it was open world in general. It was a true evolution in literally every sense of the word. So it was really tough to go back to that. Dying Light 2, kudos to it, was a really good time. But one of the defining features that made Dead Island so great was modding your weapons, putting like batteries and oil canisters and whatnot on your weapon, finding blueprints in the environment, completing quests to get blueprints, modifying your weapons to put electricity on them, fire on them, and then just seeing how they interact with the environment, like lighting an oil canister on fire, and especially when it's nighttime or nighttime when it's raining, seeing how the fire interacts with the environment is just, again, so dope looking. This game's usage of lighting is incredible and just how dynamic it can be. But those weapon mods were such a big part of Dead Island. And so to take all of that and then bring it into a game that's doing so much more in its movement, so much more in its world, it was like an unbelievable +1. I remember, and there's actually a video of it on my Mr. Matty channel, finding XP caliber. There was a sword that you could find that you had to hold X for, I think, like 5 or 10 minutes, and you could eventually pull it out. I thought that was like a hilarious little Easter egg. There was an achievement attached to it, but I remember being so excited when we found that, because it just was this little island out there that we swam to and just said, screw it, let's see what's out there. And me and my friend were playing this and we found it, and it was just this awesome moment that we had to record. Speaking of which, playing with a friend, the other kind of unreal part about all of this is the game was full co-op. I remember being so surprised about that as well, because back then, number one, co-op was starting to be forgotten about because everyone and their mother was trying to do competitive multiplayer or having some type of multiplayer mode attached to their game. And so co-op kind of got put in the back seat. But Dying Light adding co-op, again, another huge element from Dead Island, bringing it over here with the parkour, with the open world, with all these evolutions I'm talking about, it really is one of the best, I guess, starts to a series you could ever ask for, but also spiritual successors, because it was building off of Dead Island. It's just unbelievable what they pulled off here. It's no wonder the community is amazing. And that's not even getting into the DLC, which added things like a vehicle and dozens of hours of more content. Like, this is the full package. You can put tons and tons of hours into the first Dying Light game. It's just surreal how well they nailed it. The interactivity is also a big thing with Techland games, in my opinion. Dead Island did this really well. Dying Light carries it a step further. Like, oh, you see, for example, there are spikes set up on a wall from when they were trying to keep zombies out of a building. Okay, I'm gonna sprint at you, jump, and drop kick you, and you just launch these zombies into every single environmental object you can imagine. But when you shoot them into the spikes, it's really good stuff. So there's just creative ways to use your environment, because weapon durability is a real thing here. Like, your bladed weapons, you got to repair them as quickly as you can because they are breaking fast. Blunt weapons are really sick. And then on top of all of this, again, this is like a mega video game. There is a skill tree, a set of skill trees, and then there's the legend skill tree that you can only invest in once you max out your other skill trees. But you have like an agility skill tree, which you're always getting experience for if you're moving around the environment. You have your combat skill tree, your survival skill tree. All these things are constantly moving, so you're always progressing things, and that kind of plays into the almost MMO feel that Dying Light has, because there's dailies that you can do, which is crazy, by the way. I've never really engaged in that part of the game, nor did I have interest in it, but just crazy that the community was that attentive to the game that they were doing dailies in Dying Light. So yeah, then to the MMO point I was making, there are these just like random challenges sitting around the map. Like, there's some characters that'll give you them, oh, you want to go beat up a bunch of enemies with this weapon, kill 50 of them in under 2 minutes. I did that on a bridge while it was raining, and it was super epic looking. There's another time where they'll give you a parkour challenge, just hit all these markers along the way, and it's a real test of your skills, especially if they're telling you don't use the grappling hook, and you have to complete that mission under a certain amount of time. So there's just a lot packed into this game, and it's also fun to engage in. I haven't dropped my very famous line I always say about video game movement. It's not the only way to make your game fun, but if you can nail that sort of point A to point B, like this was the awakening game for me. Like, the first game I noticed this feeling for was Spider-Man 2. Yes, that Spider-Man 2, like Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 2 open world video game. I love the feeling of web swinging in the game, because when you released, there was such momentum, but also there were the aerial tricks that you could do. There was also the combos that you could do. The stair step combo was my favorite, but also tying enemies to lampposts, but the movement into the combat, those sorts of combos, all of that felt really good. It was there I realized that great movement could be everything in a game, though I didn't like think of it that way because I wasn't like a critic at that time. I was barely making my own lunch at that time. But Dying Light was where, as a critic, I realized and started to put those pieces together that this is such a valuable piece to the puzzle. If you're making a game and you can make just getting around fun, like sticking with Spider-Man, Insomniac did with the first Spider-Man game. They built a lot of systems off the back of Sunset Overdrive, carried them over into Spider-Man, and did an unbelievable job making traversing the environment feel great. Same thing here with Dying Light. It's just fun getting around, and like that kicks a ton of ass. So yeah, just wanted to go back to Dying Light ahead of the Beast, see what's going on here, and I think it's aged gracefully. Like, if you have not played the Dying Light series, pick it up with a friend. It goes on sale for really cheap, and it's a really awesome time. I have great memories playing this in co-op, both games in co-op. So, ladies and gentlemen, I leave it to you now. What do you think of Dying Light 1? Fire away down below. Other than that, take excellent care of yourselves, and I'll catch you in the next Retro Rebound. Peace out.